Well, welcome back, everyone. We just saw Showtime taking down Sen 2-1. Both still alive, but Showtime now has a great advantage in Group C as he is one of the winners. It's time to find out who's going to join him up top and who will have to battle through Sen to fight for another time here in Group C. Next match coming up, it is going to be Jaedong versus HeRoMaRinE. I'm glad to have both of you here on the desk to talk about Jaedong. Yeah, the EG boys talking about the Jaedong match. Let's talk about the matchup as a whole, first of all. But, of course, the highlight is always, the spotlight's going to be on Jaedong just because of his history. And a long history it is, starting from Brood War, and what a legend he has been. But is that really, can we really count on that anymore? Like this year, it's been a rough year for him, both for multiple reasons.
That's the problem with having such a high point. I mean, I don't want to talk about myself too much, but it is something I've dealt with. Yeah, a little bit. Anyways, the point is that when you hit those high marks, you know, you're such a great player, everybody is always going to hold you to that standard. And that is the standard for Jaedong. He is a legend. He is a champion. He is expected to make BlizzCon. He is expected to have a successful year. This group stage, for everybody, even for Jaedong, he's viewing it as like he will make it out of this group. But realistically, it's actually a very tough group.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, lead us through here a little bit and just a quick history, right? Because some people are going to be watching and it's like, man, are they really talking about Jaedong again as a legend? But the funny thing is, I like how you put it, Huck, is because if you think back a couple years when Jaedong was constantly getting second place, that was like a bad thing for Jaedong, right? People would talk about that as a bad thing when any other player in the world would be like, I mean, it's a little bit unfortunate, but man, am I happy to see my name up there for every single tournament. But then you have Jaedong, everyone's like, why isn't he winning any of these tournaments? How great was he? I mean, for us to still be talking about him like that here in 2015.
I mean, we use the word legend, and for him, it actually is super applicable. There was poster boards of him in Korea. He's been on national television. He's played in audiences as large as BlizzCon and bigger. He was one of the absolute Zerg titans that faced against Flash in many of the big finals, the OSLs, the gigantic tournaments, and he did it in a really aggressive, cool fashion. Like, you kind of built a character around him that wasn't necessarily him. Like, Chris and I and others have hung out with Jaedong. He's not like a super aggressive, like, god-type guy, but that kind of got built up because of his success, but also because of the way he played. So for him to be here in StarCraft 2 and to kind of struggle, and we're like, hey, HeRoMaRinE's kind of a dangerous guy for him. Like, the Jaedong of 9 years ago, that would be like blasphemy. They'd be like, get that guy off the stage. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So it's different times, but it's still very, very important. To lose here to this guy, as we see, a young German with his earphones off, so I'm going to say all the mean stuff right now because he can hear it, and I'm just kidding, but he's a young guy, and he's been at the Home Story Cups. He's been around the German scene, which is also, you know, everyone's talking about the French scene right now, but the Germans produce really good players too, and here's a young Terran player from there.
Yeah, I mean, that was what we touched upon earlier in the day. It's like everyone is talking about all the French players, the new talent coming up from there, but overall in EU, there is a lot of fresh talent coming up. HeRoMaRinE, and the fact that, again, yeah, like you said, we're talking about him also as a threat against players like Jaedong and Sen is quite a big deal. Of course, Jaedong, we've just given you a quicker, so you can look at it from the stats overall in WCS. Even this year, even though he wasn't able to take part the first season, still a great record, 6-2. Didn't get as high as he wanted to in Season 2, and that's why he's now in kind of this hole where he needs to go as far as possible. I mean, preferably, of course, winning the season and still not having a 100% chance to go to BlizzCon. It's a risky place to be, and
he's 1,075 out from 16, and you still have a couple months to go, several events. So 1,075 won't do it. But 1,075, by the way, is a long shot from round of 32. So for Jaedong, it's do or die for his WCS this year.
I mean, this group, it actually means so much to him because, like, if you can't make it out of this group, you still have so many more to go. But, man, this here, it's kind of the same story as we wanted to talk about some of the other favorites in groups A and B. It's like if they don't cruise through this group, it's going to spell trouble for them going into the later stages. But HeRoMaRinE, how big of a threat is he really to Jaedong?
I feel like he's a big threat just because there isn't much to study on this guy. He does go to these tournaments, but all in all, he isn't as active as Jaedong. Jaedong, we just saw Gfinity. He's going to pretty much every tournament he can because he needs those WCS points, and he's on that bubble. You know, we're expecting him to go far in WCS, but it's a question of how far. And he still has, you know, IEM. He still has Stockholm, and he's playing in everything that he can. He literally travels so much, and that gives a lot of ammo to HeRoMaRinE. You know, he has a lot of games to study. On the other hand, how much can Jaedong really look into HeRoMaRinE? How much can he study? How much does he know his games? And TVZ, it's always a threatening matchup. There's a lot of builds, there's a lot of ammo that Terran has that, you know, you get the mech, bio, you could do proxy racks. There's just a lot of options.
Yeah, in the current state, this is something that's been recruiting, the whole TVZ or ZVT, depending on which perspective you're taking. Jeff, what's your take on it? Is it actually something that's going to throw Jaedong a little bit off, or does HeRoMaRinE have a great advantage, or not really in this two players?
Well, I agree with everything Huck said, and for all those reasons, that is why he's a threat. I think on paper, Jaedong is, by any standards, current form or not, the better player and is better in ZVT in particular. But right now, Mech is particularly strong with this map pool, but also just meta-wise, and this is a player in HeRoMaRinE that's not afraid to go into there and do some mech, do some different things. And if he's able to do that and throw Jaedong off, Jaedong is a guy we've seen get kind of confused mid-match and not really have an answer for a different playstyle. If that can happen here, I would not be too surprised to see a big upset.
Yeah, and I want to go back. I mean, for some of our audience who may not be as familiar with HeRoMaRinE, of course, his stats in WCS so far have not been the most spectacular. But again, the fact of the matter is he's still here, right? He made it through here for good reason. Jeff, you said in the very beginning of the show, cooled off a little bit in the middle of the year, but he's back here to try to say, hey, you know what? I have a chance to make it through. I have that potential. We'll see how it goes. And it would be quite a big feat for him to take down Jaedong, go on to the winner's match in Group C, and then see if he can even go out maybe in first seed of Group C. I think that would be a pretty impressive feat for
HeRoMaRinE. I mean, Chober, we've had a couple upsets in the first two groups, and a lot of that's because this is a big, big deal. Season 3 is such a huge launching point, not just for BlizzCon, which of course is the pocket of gold at the end of the rainbow there, but it's like this is the final send-off for a lot of these players. So for him, HeRoMaRinE, he's expected to lose to Jaedong. Big deal if he loses, but that means he's dangerous in that regard. The pressure's off of him. For Jaedong, losing to him, that would be really bad.
And if you think you're good at making those predictions, you think you can predict HeRoMaRinE possibly upsetting Jaedong, you could, of course, go to fantasy.eslgaming.com/SC2, make your own predictions.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Of course, you can tweet that out at us too. Tell us what you think on hashtag WCS. We'd love to hear from you. I mean, especially in this group, I know people who have been following StarCraft for a long time. You know who Jaedong is, but at the same time, some of the newer generation, maybe you actually know a little bit more about HeRoMaRinE than Jaedong. Maybe you've only started following recently, and you're like, well, and you're from EU. You're like, well, I have a lot of pride for HeRoMaRinE. You know, he's playing from Germany. I want EU to become a huge powerhouse again, and it's been climbing back up so far in 2015. Even if HeRoMaRinE can't necessarily overtake some of these other players in WCS points, to go out in Season 3 and say, you know what, taking some of the Korean players down, taking some of the legends down, EU's coming back even stronger in 2016 will be a message to send.
Yeah, whenever Europeans beat Koreans, we see all the European players write in their native language, whether it's Swedish or German or whatever, and they're like, I don't know, you do a better Swedish impression than me. It's like, Allah, hold, Europe holds, or something like this. And you're like, oh,
There's national pride. They get excited.
Yeah, it's great to see. It's so good to see, and now people rallying around these players who are starting to show up as, you could say, newer talent compared to some of the players who've been around since Brood War even. So great time to see. Of course, first map is going to be Coda. And for those of you guys watching at home, if you want to come in and watch these players live tomorrow, we still have Group D left this weekend. Just go ahead and type !tickets in chat. As you're watching the stream, you'll get all the information you need on how to get here and how you can watch these players live and cheer them on. So first map is going to be a standard one on Coda. We'll see, is HeRoMaRinE up for the job, or is Jaedong coming back in prime form to go for a bit of a long shot, but still the one shot he needs to take for BlizzCon. Going into Game 2, it's going to be Nate and Roddy.
And a mad dash for Jaedong as he attempts to make his way to the global finals at the end of 2015. But Roddy, he's got a young German whippersnapper trying to stop him.
Yep, and a very scary young German player. I actually casted his match as well in Challenger. Went up against the Zerg, my fellow Dutchy Red. And HeRoMaRinE played pretty damn good in those games, Nate. So Jaedong has his work cut out for him. Of course, he's the favorite, but this man is not going to make it easy on him.
He will not, of course. He is our blue Terran player in the Northeast. He is HeRoMaRinE representing Mouse Sports.
A multiple-time EPS champion. Nate.
Yeah, he tweeted right before this match, said, can this guy, our Red Zerg player, defeat a 3-time EPS champion? We're about to find out from Evil Geniuses. He is Jaedong, the Korean Zerg. The tyrant, as it were.
Do you think Jaedong is feeling it a little bit? Huck mentioned it as well. Recently went to England for Gfinity, didn't perform all that well. And let's not forget, before that, he was supposed to attend an Intel Extreme Masters in China and he couldn't obtain his visa in time. So it's kind of like two tournaments where he could have potentially done very well for himself. One got taken away and the other one he just didn't really live up to the expectations. Do you think that Jaedong comes into this group today with some pressure on his shoulders, or you think he's unshaken as always?
I think there's a lot of pressure on him for this, especially considering either one of those tournaments could have given him enough WCS points where he could come into this group and say, okay, I want to make round of 16, round of 8, but I don't actually need to win. At this point, Jaedong pretty much, if he wants to secure and guarantee himself, he has to win this season of WCS. You know, it's like, okay, maybe he has to, you know, do really well in another tournament, but that is going to be so difficult in and of itself. The competition is going to be way stiffer competing in outside events like a DreamHack, you know, or whatever few events are left before the global finals at BlizzCon.
And I think that Jaedong has a lot of fire to go with as well. Like probably he's extra eager. Jaedong is always eager. He's been like one of the most competitive players for a long time. But if Jaedong was watching this broadcast where Paul did his interview, and Paul is like, well, I think everyone knows that I'm the only one who can defeat Hydra, and Hydra is the only one who could defeat me. Like if I'm Jaedong at home, I was like, oh boy, you're gonna get it, man. Like I'll fire up 7 games at the same time, you know. And I think
multi-boxing StarCraft.
Exactly. Like it's like, hey man, like aren't you forgetting about a couple of players? And then in particular, you know, Jaedong is not a player you should ever forget about. So most likely, he's going to be extremely motivated, Nate, to go all the way this season and do better than the quarterfinals appearance he had in Toronto.
Yeah, perhaps, but even then, you know, Hydra still showed his prowess in that matchup. So the real question is, what is HeRoMaRinE going to bring to the table for this best of 3? We've seen a lot of Terrans, of course, a lot of people talking about mech and whatnot, of course, from some of the strongest players in the scene. I don't quite know that HeRoMaRinE is the kind of guy to bust out those styles, but perhaps, you know, if he's been practicing enough, maybe he's gotten an idea of where Jaedong's condition might be, and he just wants to outplay him.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few games of HeRoMaRinE recently, as not only did I cast his challenger match against Red, where he played very well, even though I have to admit that Red was ahead very far in 2 out of the 4 games they played. Red just couldn't close it out, but HeRoMaRinE, he's just straight up Terran, Nate, and I think you'll like his playstyle. Most of the time we'll come down to a couple Hellions, go into 3 CCs. Every now and then he will switch it up and he will open up with a few Hellbats, maybe Hellbat Banshee, you know, just to keep it hard for the Zerg to figure out what they are playing against exactly. But the majority of the time he plays straight up bio, 3 command centers, and just tries to make the difference that way.
Yeah. I do like the 3 Reaper opening into 3 command centers. HeRoMaRinE is playing a very standard greedy style of Zerg in the of Terran in this game, as we are into just another looks like a little technical difficulty as we get through this, getting ready to go into this series, the second series of the day. Of course, you're watching the World Championship Series. Let us know if you guys disagree with us. I'm totally up for hearing it. Tweet at us #WCS. Be like, no, I actually think that Jaedong's going to turn it on, win WCS and the next DreamHack, and go straight to the global finals.
And win BlizzCon as well, because he is the one and only Jaedong.
That would be a true turnaround from how this year started for him.
That would be like the reverse of 2013, where he was, you know, one of the top dogs all year long. Even though he wasn't winning, but he was making it to finals multiple times within 1 year, and that's always very impressive.
Yeah, it's just interesting because you have so much pressure on you now. There were a lot of guys that had good results, you know, across the board. Especially, you know, Hydra is a really good example. Even prior to winning in Season 2, getting the championship, he performed really well at a lot of international events. You know, with the Gfinity here and there, DreamHack here and there, and he was there with a lot of other guys that were also competing, like partying in them. And maybe they're not, you know, not all just winning the big tournaments, but you're getting close enough that there's still all those points that you can accumulate. But Jaedong started so late, only really starting his WCS run in Season 2.
Yep, it made it very hard for him to collect the amount of points that he did in the previous years. But it's not over yet. HeRoMaRinE, on the other end, did recently participate in another tournament as well, Nate, and it was the Intel Extreme Masters in Gamescom. Made it through the open bracket, and then also made it through the group stage until he made it into the quarterfinals, where eventually his run would end. But that was still a pretty damn solid run for HeRoMaRinE, making an appearance in the quarterfinals of the Intel Extreme Masters. I think that's something that our German Terran can be quite proud of, as we are going to have to rehost this game once again. We apologize for the inconvenience, guys, as we are suffering from a minor technical difficulty. Frustrating for us, frustrating for the players, but we'll get through it. Ain't that right, Nate?
That's right, as we always do.
We have fought bigger fires together.
Yeah, there's a lot more StarCraft left to be played today, to say the least. There'll be a lot for you guys to tune into, a lot of different matches. You know, so far, we have actually, and especially if as a favored player, if Jaedong were to take this series, we actually have a scenario where we've actually avoided mirror matchups so far. It's like I noticed this morning when I came, I was like, last 2 days, we had a group with 2 Terrans, a group with 2 Zergs. No mirror at all yet.
there is a chance we could have a mirror today, but that's up to Sen and Jaedong. As this is also a very well-balanced group. I must say, Messioso and Sean, you know, the admin over there in Europe, they did a pretty good job with the group drawings, because it's pretty even across the board. There was one group where it could have been all Zergs. I think that is one of the European groups where they have 3 Zergs.
The European groups are a little more heavily stacked. And
Yeah.
Group D as well for us tomorrow will be a little Terran stacked.
Yes, it's 3 Terrans and a Protoss?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Who's the only...
It's Haas.
Oh, yes, that's great. Well,
So
we
if
can
you,
count proxy oracles for days, Nate.
yeah, if you have not had your daily recommended amount of cheese tomorrow, you'll get several servings of dairy, perhaps, as Haas will take on several Terrans. I think it's, what is it, Aiga's Marine Lord, and remember the name of the last Terran there, Kev?
I'll know it real
Just
soon.
slipped. I was thinking too much Terrans right now. For some reason, I can't stop thinking about HeRoMaRinE. Massa, right.
Yeah.
That's
Massa's.
actually really funny because I was just talking to him like 10 minutes ago.
That's a very international group as well. A North American, an Australian, a Frenchie, and a Taiwanese player. Can we get any more global, Nate, in one group? I don't think we could.
It'd be pretty difficult. It'd be tough, to say the least, as we set everything up to get back into this game at some point. But really, group overall, like if Jaedong were to underperform in this group and actually not go on to the upper bracket match, like this, I still think that despite his performance for this year, it would still be a pretty big upset.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm expecting Jaedong to do well today. I think we are looking at a very fun day of StarCraft overall. I think it's going to be close, especially because this is a dangerous group with players like HeRoMaRinE and Showtime. You know, the Germans as well. Germany being the most represented nation this year in WCS, together with China just behind Korea. Korea, of course, having 5 players within WCS. Germany and China having 4. Either way, guys, I'm afraid this is going to take just a couple of minutes. So for now, we're going to have to a very small commercial break. And after that, we'll be back, hopefully for good, with Jaedong versus HeRoMaRinE.
This is the WCS Premier League Season 3, right in the middle of Group C right now, waiting to find out who will move on to the winners match, who will move on to the elimination match between Jaedong and HeRoMaRinE. Of course, we talked about these two players as a whole quite a bit before the game. I mean, if you missed it, you know that Jaedong, of course, is going to have... He's a legend, right? Huge history. HeRoMaRinE, on the other hand, again, new talent. Seems to be the theme this year overall. Just a lot of these kind of legends from Korea, the older players, coming through and still trying to hold on and still trying to prove that they're still at the top of their game. Whereas we're starting to see newer talent from EU, you know, some from NH starting to come in and say, no, we're going to still challenge you. We're still going to put a little bit of a road bump in your path all the way to the global finals. And we've seen that season after season so far this year.
New and young, I would say. Like, HeRoMaRinE's actually been around for a little while, a few years here, but it's always been kind of miraculous that he did start when he was like, I want to say like 13 or something.
Yeah.
And he's now 16, 17. He's very young. He's a very young guy. So it's actually incredible what these guys are doing and traveling the world. And like, we actually have a guy even in you know, one of Chris's friends actually, Ariam, who's too young for WCS, went to DreamHack and did fairly well, knocking out or beating a Korean, a very good one.
Snoop Bunny, I think,
Snoop
as well.
Bunny. Like, he had a great run. Like, it's kind of cool because one of the big things about games is talking about, are you getting that injection of young blood, those up-and-coming players? And in StarCraft, in particular this year, and also through the awesome WCS system, we can say, yes, we're seeing really cool guys come up.
Yeah, it's really neat to see that, like, this year in particular, because until now, we started to see, again, kind of the old guard come back into StarCraft 2, and they started dominating again, and that was the theme for, I would say, the past year and a half before 2015, and then 2015 shows up, and suddenly from the pockets that people were talking about in their own communities, rise up to WCS. And
the French, the Germans, all of them, yes. And it's a sad day for me. 26, getting up there.
Are you starting to feel it now?
Making the switch to casting, analysis. It's the circle of life, man.
Hey, well, you're in a good place. Don't worry. We're all here. It's not a bad place to be. But, of course, I know you're going to miss the thrill a little bit. I mean, for these players, especially, again, to have the system WCS where it sustains you, but at the same time, it doesn't get rid of the thrill, right? Because you need to hit that. You want to hit that reputation, the first prize of each season, and then go to the global finals, play in front of all the crowd at BlizzCon. It's a tough road. I mean, we say that it's great for the players, and it is, but that doesn't mean it's, you know, an easygoing, comfortable life for these guys. It's 100% still tension and stress for them to have to fight for that.
In every way, it's gotten better, the WCS system. You know, we oftentimes talk about what it's doing for these players, and there is, of course, the tougher side of this. This is competition. For every winner, there's actually probably numerous losers, and even those winners fall off. And that's the beauty of the game, too. StarCraft is, like, a lot of people ask me, how and why have you been playing so long? Well, as good as I've ever been, I've never been anywhere near the top. And you look at even really, really good players, like look no further than Jaedong, where literally they were at that ceiling. They were butting heads with that ceiling. And then, you know, for this reason or that, all of a sudden, other people surpass them. And that's StarCraft. Forever, people are going to get beyond you. They're going to find new ways to beat everyone else. And it's, you know, for a lot of us, it's really infectious. And you can see that coming to life in WCS, where we've had players that are, like, look at Polt. I mean, he was a guy that he's won several seasons. He's won the biggest tournaments. He's been unstoppable a few times. But just a couple days ago, it was like, actually, Polt, you might not make it out of this group with these young bucks kicking up at you.
And he hasn't won at BlizzCon. And that is the ultimate achievement, not only in money, but in prestige. The crowd, I mean, the crowd in stage last year was fantastic. I mean, I'm looking at it and saying it like from a semi-depressed thing, because I played in a BlizzCon, but never quite the level that it's at now. And that's the beautiful thing, once again, like you were saying in StarCraft 2, just in general, the game gets so complicated, the skill gets higher. Even if we look from like this year to last year or the year before, within the same players in the community, the players are constantly getting better. If I played myself from 3 years ago, even though I was more successful, myself today would crush that Huck 3 years ago, just because the skill is constantly growing.
Yeah, it has been an incredible run for a lot of these players. And again, I think the focus on there is the fact that we are seeing new blood coming up into the game, and especially
the game evolves itself too, really itself.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, we can talk about that all we want if we started, right? I mean, the game has been evolving for so long, and we could talk about the whole history of the evolution of StarCraft. But right now, I mean, that's part of it. What keeps it fun is that it keeps everyone on their toe, and when someone discovers something new, the game starts revolving around that, and then the players start revolving around the game, and that's the whole system that we have here. But I love that you brought up the fact that it is all about going to the global finals at BlizzCon. Because, yeah, I mean, sure, with legends like Jaedong and some other players, even Polt, right, we're going to talk about their reputation every time we see them, but then come end of the year, it's going to be at the global finals, and if you get knocked out in the first, round of 16, then people aren't really going to remember that. They're going to remember who was on that stage at the very last moment lifting up that trophy, having their picture taken, kissing the trophy, and that's the moment they remember. I mean, you think back to 2013, right? Jaedong was so close. SOS beats him. What do people remember? SOS jumping up on stage. And they were like, SOS, I mean, he seems like that kind of like genius child that just showed up and won, but then he started continuing to play well. That's what has a lasting impression.
And he's number 16 right now, too. It's like SOS only shows up.
Yeah, and he's right there.
He's like, what's the prize pool? Oh, it's 100,000? I'll be there. That's fine. Yeah.
He's the $100,000 man.
Every time. If I can do that, yeah.
There's a lot of players that, I mean, of course, interesting stories. But so far, this season of WCS, we had the two big stories, of course, Polt and Hydra, already in Group A and B. Like you mentioned, Polt looking a little bit shaky. Yeah, a little bit shaky. I mean, he got out in first seed. And, he was, that's what I love about Polt, by the way. He's like, no matter his performance, he's like, oh, well, I admit that the round of 32 Polt is not as good as the round of 16 Polt. But then he's like, but still, the only person who can actually eliminate me from this tournament is probably only Hydra.
Hydra didn't agree, though.
Hydra didn't agree.
And Hydra was very much on point. When we saw Hydra yesterday, it was the Hydra we expected. He absolutely crushed every single match. It wasn't even close. He very much in control. As much as you can be a Zerg, it's a race of reactions and timings, but all in all, great play.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where our players stand right now. I mean, again, spotlights on the players like Sen and Jaedong, the ones who have a little bit longer history. Are they still in form at the same time? Or are we going to see a bit of an upset? We already had one each for the groups A and B. It's time to find out Group C if HeRoMaRinE can be the first one to come through and topple that tower that is Jaedong. We are going to go back into first game between these two players, find out where they stand in Group C.
Thank you very much for bearing with us. We are ready to get back into game number 1 of our second best of 3. You're watching the World Championship Series. We were talking about it. Jaedong has a lot on his shoulders. He has a lot of weight to carry, Roddy, if he wants to make it to the global finals. And it all starts here in Premier League.
Yep, and it's going to be a cool series. It really is. HeRoMaRinE played some good TVZ lately. Has also had some really good practice, played against the best players in the world. I think he went out against Su, by the way, at the Intel Extreme Masters Gamescom. And that was maybe a kind of a one-sided series, but can't really fall in for it. And as much as I love Jaedong, Jaedong is not a Su at this moment.
Yeah, this is a very interesting position to be in, as he is, of the players we've been showing you here in our Burbank studio for the American broadcasts and matches of Premier League, one of the only guys that actually has a chance, were he to win this season, of even making it into the top 16. The majority, I'd say almost all the other players here, aside from obviously already qualified Hydra and Polt, there's really no one else that's got much of a chance other than Jaedong playing here this weekend.
HeRoMaRinE lost against Su, but I was actually in the group stage, just double-checked it. I was confused a little bit. The other German made it through. That was Lambo back then. Germany is going strong. Either way, let's just focus on the game for now. HeRoMaRinE, of course, with his economic opening, loves playing solid, steady, defensive TVZ. Just poke it out a little bit. Every now and then will go very aggressive, but most of the time he likes to rely on his late game. He had some pretty good late game against Red, and Red is definitely no slouch either. No pushover in this matchup. But I'm very curious, above all, what kind of Jaedong are we going to see? Nate, this is a great start for Jaedong, picking up those 2 Hellions.
Bypassing the Hellions that were out on the map, getting these Zerglings into the natural. You're preventing the wall from going up. You're wasting the last couple seconds. Those mules could have been mining. And these SCVs, they're on a field trip.
Yeah, not the kind of trip you want to make at this time of the day in Coda. Coda gets very sketchy after 8 p.m.
Yeah, going down the wrong alleyway for sure over there with all those Zerglings around them. Jaedong's going to be finishing up his lair after this, but that early Zergling aggression, not bad. He finds himself up about 20 or so workers.
Yeah, you made it sound like it's quite common, but of course 20 workers is quite a bit for a Zerg, especially when you get some freedom out of all of this as well. It was just an excellent counterattack when it came to those Zerglings. Jaedong Aspires already on the way. This is of course such a popular opening in this day and age. Su loves it as well. The good old 2-base Muda. No evolution chambers as of yet. These Banshees need to do some serious work. I don't think there's Cloak though. No, there is not. If there was Cloak, HeRoMaRinE could have possibly done some serious work with this Banshee, because there was no Overseer, no Spore Crawler either. But Jaedong, he ain't worried.
Yeah, I mean, he did have the lair, but at that point, having the transfuse available for that queen made it, might have been worth it to try to get a few drones instead of trying to kill the queen. But I can understand from HeRoMaRinE's perspective, if you kill the queens, you can prevent the creep spread from being pushed out as much, but also deny energy for those further transfuses later on or injects.
He has to worry though. I mean, at least he has Rex number 2 and 3 before he decided to go into double eBay. As Jaedong is going to try to wrap around, get the surround on the Hellions, will pick off 2 Hellions immediately. Man, so far Jaedong absolutely not messing around. Man, he's making it look so easy, Nate. He's killed 6 Hellions already in this game. He will most likely get this one as well. The Reapers have died, and from this point on, it's happy creep spread season for Jaedong.
Yeah, this is a really nice spot to be in for Jaedong. He's already creeping up one of the third potential bases. This Hellion's just like, no, it's not happening. There's nowhere to run.
This Hellion was in a bad dream, and he was trying to wake up from his nightmare. He says, just get me already. You had those nightmares too, Nate, when you were little?
There's no escape. Yeah, being chased by Zerglings.
Yeah,
we all have those nightmares.
Angry creatures, Zerglings, you know, something like that. And it's like you try to scream and no one hears you, Nate. I don't have these nightmares anymore, guys, I promise. Even though I shiver every night.
Well, the mutas are coming out, and Jaedong has already taken a very dominating position. I mean, if we talk about ZvTs, Jaedong's played in WCS this year. Naturally, the last thing I'm going to think about is his challenger match. He wrecked Semper. It wasn't even remotely close. Very, very dominant performance, and HeRoMaRinE, who's definitely got a lot more results, that 3-time EPS champion, still taking a beating at the beginning of this game. Taking this third base, this will not be as easy as just, okay, let me land my command center now.
No, because there are not a whole lot of Marines on the map just yet. There are 50 Marines. I do like these Vikings a little bit. They can be useful in zoning out these mutalisks, pushing them away from missile turrets, but now this orbital is sitting here, Nate. Without a missile turret, it's going to have a hard time. SCVs are going to have a pretty hard time actually mining anything of this base, especially when the Marine count is still as low as it currently is. As we do have one more pulse. This time it's by a player.
Yeah, so hopefully everything is all right.
He's like, excuse me, sir, the player I'm playing against is way too good for this region. Why is everything dying?
And it's like, excuse me, I think I accidentally, is it like handicap mode or something like that? My Marines seem to only have like 70% of their normal health. It's like, no, actually, A, you don't have combat shield, but B, you're taking a little bit of damage now.
Yes. He's like, sir, I've practiced a lot of TVZ, and in all of these games I did start off with 6 Hellions. Now 2 of them got picked up immediately, and my SCVs were forced to run away from the natural.
I believe this is cause for a regain.
Yes, can you explain this outrageous behavior on Koda? Like, I don't know what's going on, but something ain't right. All jokes aside, we have no idea what's going on with HeRoMaRinE. As soon as we know, we would, of course, let you know. It seems like there's a minor issue with the monitor this time.
Yeah, makes me think back though, like when you say stuff like that to some of the old like trick maps that were made before you could sort them by ladder.
I know.
And it was like Star Station, but it was, instead of like LE, it was like IE, and like the Zealots would have the Reaper jetpacks at the start of the game.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Let's just take a look at a couple of the highlights so far of this game, as this is of course at one moment where things spiraled out of control a little bit for HeRoMaRinE. Normally as a Terran you want to be in a comfortable position here, you know, deny some creep tumors. Instead, losing 2 Hellions at home, they got surrounded immediately. All these SCVs were not mining for the longest amount of time. And then of course the big engagement, you know, it's always a little bit risky to go off creep, but Jaedong knows which battles he can and cannot take, and this was a phenomenal fight.
Yeah, it was really well done, especially considering HeRoMaRinE's army was only there trying to hit a creep tumor.
I really hope we can see the entire chase of this Hellion again, because it made me very happy. All I need is some good, you know, some Disneyland music.
And you know, if you run it up to the wall, there's nothing there.
It's a small world. Oh, there we go.
You get such pleasure out of watching Terran units die, Kev. It breaks my heart.
Well, Nate, whenever I watch your stream, you're just always winning, so I like to see something different.
I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that, Kev.
All right, hopefully we can continue this series real soon. We do apologize for the inconvenience and all the delays we've had so far. So everything went so well. Day number 1 and day number 2, Nate. You almost get used to it.
Yeah, can't take things for granted, Roddy. It's been a very exciting week of games so far, and there's still so many left to play. So,
of course, we encourage everyone to visit us tomorrow in Burbank. If you live in Southern California, it's definitely worth checking out. The studio looks awesome, man. The studio really got a massive upgrade compared to the previous seasons. Like, Roddy goes away for a couple seasons, comebacks, and everything looks shiny and flashy. It's like, why wasn't this when I was here, man?
thank you.
Did you make it happen?
I wanted, you know, pull a couple strings. We missed you, you know. Wanted to tighten things up
I
a
really
bit.
love the red on one side and the blue on the other side. It just gives a very nice feel to the studio. Looked a lot better than in the back when we just had a white and blue background. Like, oh, you know, it looked alright, but these days it actually looks very cool. So I think for visitors it's an awesome experience as well. If you live in Southern California, make sure to drop by. Information on how to get tickets can be found everywhere on the ESL website.
Yeah, it's totally worth checking out. We are back in the game. As you can see, those Mutalisks were attempting to kill things, being as annoying as possible. They grabbed a mule. And at this point in the game, HeRoMaRinE wants to bolster up his forces, lock down that third, and as a Terran, you want to push towards the center of the map, clear some creep tumors, and get aggressive. You don't want the Zerg to be able to bully you with these Mutalisks all day long.
1-1 upgrades are ready for HeRoMaRinE, so there will be a small window where he has a minor upgrade advantage, but creep is already past the halfway mark, and this is, of course, like I mentioned before, it's happy creep spread season, man. If the Terrans just lose all the Hellions like that, you're gonna give Jaedong freedom to spread creep? Well, he knows what to do with that freedom. Bailing speed has finished up. He's gonna try to take his fourth base. And normally this is like kind of a scary moment. Now it's not scary at all. Look at the amount of Mutalisks Jaedong has already. He could probably jump on this turret and maybe even kill it. Yes, he does. So that means that HeRoMaRinE is gonna have to go all the way back, and Jaedong will be, able to let his upgrades finish and go up to 4 bases completely uncontested.
It's really nice when you consider that HeRoMaRinE also did not have his armory complete. He only started it after his +1 upgrades finished. So he's way, it looks like the upgrades are even. He should be a minute, he should be 70 seconds ahead on this 2-2, opening up the door for another timing. Now that opportunity is lost, and Jaedong continues to contain him, hold that map control, and well, here he goes, trying to take the center tower position. Can Jaedong push this back? It looks like so far so good.
Well, there are a couple of mines here. Jaedong has to be careful because a lot of his units were clumped up. That was a great Widow Mine shot, taking out 6 or 7 Bailings. That's pretty much what HeRoMaRinE needed if he ever wanted to stabilize in this fight. I don't really like what Jaedong is doing over here. I felt he threw away a lot of units. Of course,
overzealous.
He's in a position to throw away a lot of units.
There's still mines on the map too.
Yeah. Uh-oh. So this has not been the end of the world, but he has to start being really careful. And here are these mines that you mentioned, Nate. Well, okay. Only one Zergling died. We really hyped it up for no reason.
Well, I mean, hey man, sometimes it gets ugly real fast. The Zerglings and the Mutas are going to try to come overwhelm this army. There's only one Baneling rolling around with this force, and those Marines, man, they can really handle a lot of Zerglings on their own.
Jaedong has 1,200 gas. He's making 42 additional Zerglings. I mean, it looks great.
Where are the Banelings at?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there we go. 17 Banelings on the way. He could make 30, 40 or more if he stops making Zerglings for a split second.
Yeah, just crank him out. 29 Banelings on the way. This is exactly what Jaedong needs to take out such a Marine-heavy army. Just, of course, need to be mindful of those Widow Mines and the splitting.
Oh, there's a medevac full of bio units. It's going to get picked off pretty much immediately, man. It's just a rough time to be a medevac in this day and age of StarCraft 2.
Already giving me PTSD from yesterday's series between Kelazar and Elfie, Roddy. So many medevacs in such a little time.
Maybe HeRoMaRinE can stim forward here and pick off a couple of Mutalisks if Jaedong's not paying attention, but Jaedong has been so rich once again.
More 24 more Banelings. So what do we...
He had 1,300. He had 1,300 gas in the bank, Nate.
54 Banelings.
Jaedong is actually gonna have 108 Banelings soon and no Zerglings. And then he's gonna have to remax, otherwise he can't kill the buildings with HeRoMaRinE.
That'd almost be preferable because then it would be so much harder to bait out the Widow Mine shots. Just drop the Thor in the center. Eat 20 up. So the Mutas are coming in on the right side.
This is great, though. What a great engagement by Jaedong.
I mean, this is just a massive surround. HeRoMaRinE's army has nowhere to run, swallowed whole by the Banelings and the Zerglings. Still plenty enough left over to continue pushing up into this wall. A couple of the Widow Mines are going to try to defend this. Unburrows, reburrows, but no dice, and the Banelings continue to crash through, swarming over the natural expansion of HeRoMaRinE. The Thor's picked up, trying to run, but how far can you run before your army is done, Roddy?
Well, you can run, but you definitely can't hide if you're as big as a Thor. This Mutalisk will pick it off, and pretty much the writing is on the wall for game number 1 over here, as it's just an absolute massacre. Jaedong is up 70, 80 supply. They're even in upgrades. There's creep everywhere. Widow Mines are killing Marines now. That's also friendly fire. That's just, when it rains it pours and everything goes wrong.
Yeah, this is an ugly spot to be in. GG's called, and Jaedong will secure game number 1 here in our second series of the day in the World Championship Series Premier League.
I think if anyone ever asks you, like, hey, how important are the Hellions in TVC? I think that this replay is a perfect showcase. It's alright, creep denial spread, class 101, here we go.
You need them so badly.
You can put on some pressure. If those Hellions and the Reapers would have stayed alive, if you wouldn't have taken the economic damage, He forces the queens to be at the front. He denies creep. Maybe the Banshee actually does some work in the main base. You don't know. From this point on, it almost felt like this was an absolute disaster game for HeRoMaRinE. I don't think anything truly went his way.
Yeah, when you lose those Hellions, it slows you down so much. This creep helps so much, and then just a little bit of carelessness.
There's one mine here that blows up like 6 or 7 banelings. Like, there it goes. From down. Boom. But that's pretty much the only thing that went in his way. There's just way too much creep. Jaedong had way too much gas.
Every time he left his base, he was immediately on creep, and that's, you know, it's not even just the fights, but the reinforcements come so quickly when the creep is this close.
This was an absolutely beautiful engagement, of course, by Jaedong, coming in from multiple angles. Mutas on the north, banelings and zerglings on the west, and coming from the south side as well. Just very well done.
Yeah, that was disgusting to watch, Rotterdam, as a Terran player.
You know, in the future, you know how in this day and age people have paintings. Like, I think what's going to be very popular in 20 years from now is you're going to have like massive paintings that actually display GIFs, you know, GIFs. And then, like, if I was a Zerg player, I would put this on a painting in my wall, so I could just watch it all day long.
For the first GIF tarp.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I think, like, you know, these digital photo gallery things, they're already becoming quite popular, and a lot of people have that. So instead of having one picture, you have like 10 pictures.
You have your hallway in your mansion where you walk down and you can see all the times your oracles have flown into mineral lines.
That would be so beautiful. Imagine you can just have a living room full of paintings of beautiful Protoss engagements. You know, War Prison Micro, Colossus Frets. Oh, the ultimate dream nerd house, Nate.
Yeah,
that would be my mention.
I mean, you could also just get a giant poster that shows an A key and a 1 as well, too, Roddy.
Hater.
Map 2 is going to be Cactus Valley as we get ready to see if HeRoMaRinE can swing things back. But Jaedong looked very sharp in that first game.
Yeah, he looked very good. And HeRoMaRinE is going to have to step it up a notch as we are looking at the main base of our German Terran multiple-time EPS champion. It's, of course, HeRoMaRinE. Still representing Mouse Sports. One of their last soldiers standing after Hazops abandoned the ship after being loyal to them for like 11 years.
And his opponent, of course, who's been basically since he started playing StarCraft 2, Evil Genius's Jaedong, who, well, yeah, we moved, that's one of been the hot topics, right? The slowdown from the last year, especially, as he opens with a 9 pool.
HeRoMaRinE has done CC first multiple times on multiple games I've seen him play as well.
Gutsy.
I think he did it against Su. He definitely did it in the open bracket once or twice. I saw quite a few TVCs of HeRoMaRinE. He played against Bly as well. Played very solid that series.
It will be a command center first as well.
But I don't think he's going to do it on the low ground though. Most games I see of HeRoMaRinE, he builds it on the high ground, but we'll see. If he builds it on the low ground, guys, this is going to be a rather ugly game.
Actually, I think this map still makes it okay, because depending on where that command center gets put, your barracks positioning, if you put the command center flush with the wall, the barracks is actually closer to the top side. You can't fit it on the right, like if it were Akalon Waste or something like that. So you can have more surface area of the command center available for early Zerglings to hit it. So it can still be okay. This position actually looks okay, but it can be awkward. Like, if you can't fit a command center there, then or barracks there, then it gets really weird really fast.
There's a lot of surface area to work on that command center, and like this is very fortunate for Jaedong. He scouts it immediately. This is what you want if you go for this build of Jaedong.
He can get the barracks into the. He can fit it in the wall. I don't go high ground CC on this map too much, but that's very important to note because the Zerglings will still be annoying, but he really needs that drone to distract and help get the SCVs killed so that he can maybe. There's a lot of surface here on the barracks, really. That's what's most important.
How many links do you think can attack that barracks? 5?
Yeah, I'd say. I'd say 5, 6 links could probably hit that.
6, I'd be very surprised. If 6 links can work on that barracks. Yeah, he's gonna have to be quick though, because if it ever finishes up, then
you just repair.
Yeah, just repair. That's the rocket science. I feel that Jaedong is already giving maybe a tiny bit too much time. Maybe he was just hoping it would be on the low ground.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't want to show yet that he did this. Maybe he's waiting for the command center to get lifted up. Yeah, because he can't kill this. He can't kill this drone anytime soon, anyway.
See, this is what I thought, Nate. But you made me second guess myself. I was like, oh, maybe he's gonna kill the buildings. But no.
This bunker being built this quickly is very smart too, though, because if he can just close this off.
I mean, CC first, no scout. The least I expect from a Terran is to drop a bunker, Nate. Show a little decency.
Well, you know, if we Terrans can be greedy, we take that opportunity. Every chance we get.
Stop owing people all around the world, Nate. You're one of them.
That's right.
Keep complaining about oracles when you don't build a missile turret. It's like, oh, I live with this guy. Can't believe it.
Hey, man. Hey.
Factory, this is a pretty greedy build by HeRoMaRinE.
Yeah,
Pretty quick now.
I'm pretty sure that's what this was hinging on. But that second depot and the 2 Marines getting in,
No.
he just wants to run by this and
No.
then basically say, yeah, 2 Marines, that's great. Now you have to come out of the bunker and fight. And this is
not a wall
really,
of- oh, God.
really bad. He could get the reactor, could get the factory. Like, the world is his oyster right now. I think you want to work on the reactor, bait the Marines out. If you can kill the Marines, you're happy.
Indecisive. Like, these Marines have been getting a lot of free hits off. Of course, this is quite a bit of lost mining time, but Jaedong lost way more mining time going for this early pool and producing this amount of Zerglings. Very good control so far by HeRoMaRinE. I love the position. Oh my god, HeRoMaRinE is handling this like a champ.
Yeah, this is actually
an absolute
amazing.
champ.
Yeah, just bring the SCVs out. The Marines should both survive this.
Didn't
no
lose anything.
losses sustained. And it's like, oh, blocked the factory for 2 seconds. Like, okay, that's really cute, but no, not happening.
Nice.
Both Marines survived.
Wow.
8 Lings of Drone lost that early pool against a command center first. HeRoMaRinE, you really couldn't be more happy with the way this game started.
As soon as there are 4 Hellions on the map right now, things are going to get very annoying for Jaedong already, because Jaedong doesn't want to produce Zerglings or Spine Crawlers or anything like that, but he will be forced. We saw that yesterday in a different scenario, of course, but as a Zerg, if you have absolutely nothing other than a Queen, 4 Hellions will just completely ignore this Queen. They'll drive by and they'll roast a bunch of drones, and then it's going to be borderline impossible for you as a Zerg player. We've definitely got a nice game on our hands now. You know, if this wouldn't be Jaedong versus HeRoMaRinE, I think a lot of people would say, hey Zerg, just get out of this game. This game's pretty much over.
Yeah, it was a really, really nice hold of that early pool, and HeRoMaRinE, like we said, sustained no losses, didn't have to cancel anything or move anything around or be lifted off his natural. I kind of like where you were going with it, Kev. Just get the 4 Hellions out, and there is the opportunity, because even if there's a few Lings here, there is no speed yet. We're just past halfway, and it's more about trying to scare him away with the Queens.
I would say 14 Lings on the way now for Jaedong, so in a weird way, these Hellions have already achieved.
He could have gone in by now, I think, but still doesn't need to. It's not like he has to.
I would have been okay with him suiciding 4 Hellions, even if you get 5, 6, 7 drones against a 2-base Zerg. Well, he's going.
It's only scary because if Jaedong had a Baneling nest and he sacrifices Hellions, then Jaedong can go back across the map with speed and Baneling bust him.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe this is the correct approach for HeRoMaRinE. As 2 more Rexes go up, 2 more eBays go down as well. He's just going to play this out slow and steady. Jaedong has to be very careful. He doesn't have the same amount of links as he had on Coda, so he can't really get the same wraparound as he had on Coda, especially not off creep. If Jaedong tries to surround these Hellions off creep, I have faith in HeRoMaRinE's control to keep them alive, and it's about to happen, I'm afraid.
Queens from one side, Zerglings from the other, catches the Hellions. There's nowhere to run. Several of them do get surrounded, barely trying to escape with almost no hit points, but every single Hellion gets killed, Roddy.
Jaedong makes that look so easy. That's ridiculous. Like, so smart, of course.
That is like a keyboard smashing moment of frustration for a Terran player. You lose all your map control, and Jaedong once again says to himself, probably is like, man, I wish I had a Baneling nest because I could just go win the game right now.
He was setting that up so smart, you know. The creep tumor was almost a bait to the Queens there as well. It's like, hey, go ahead, let's snipe my 2 more. And as a Terran, you just don't expect that many links.
Like, what does HeRoMaRinE really have to gain from being in that position? You know, you're trying to, kill a creep tumor, but you're still in such a vulnerable spot.
But I think mostly because of the way that this game opened, I don't think he expected Jaedong to have 20 Zerglings on the map, because Jaedong is trying to economically recover from the rough opening that he had.
Yeah, that's true as well. So HeRoMaRinE loses a lot of firepower. Even if the Hellions were never going to run in and roast a bunch of drones, you know, 4GG style, they always could have turned them into Hellbats when his armory finished, and that just adds an extra almost 700 hit points to your army.
Yep. Despite all this is still a very playable game for HeRoMaRinE. It's still not as bad, I felt, as Coda was, because of the economic scenarios that have been going on and the excellent control early game on those 2 Marines and pulling the SCVs against the Lynx. It's still doable. Look at Baneling's speed, for instance. It's light years away. Well, Stimpack has already finished up. Combat Shield is about to finish up as well. And 1-1 upgrades, they'll be done soon too. So I feel the moment that HeRoMaRinE has 4 medevacts, you kind of want to start trading a little bit. You want to put on some pressure on this man called Jaedong.
Yeah, a couple of these Lings on the map will get cleaned up, but it's imperative that HeRoMaRinE get across the map and start getting to work on this creep. It's already just outside of his 3rd base. He's taken the aggressive 3rd base positioning as an Overlord moves in to drop creep on his 4th base, but you want to clean this up, and then you want to wait a little if you can, in this spot so that you can prevent the queens from just coming and planting more tumors, because that's exactly what Jaedong is going to want to do.
Look at the upgrades of these two players.
Perfectly in tandem.
Couldn't have been more even. But of course, HeRoMaRinE, he's up in supply. And in the previous game, he was always down in supply. The Spire is a lot later as well. Makes it harder for these Mutalisks to truly do the economic damage that they're looking for. Once again, put things in perspective. Remember Coda? By the time that orbital floated over, there were like 10, 12 Mutalisks shooting at it. Right now, this third base is already up and running for HeRoMaRinE. There's a bunker. He's mining from it. First Mutas are not even out yet. There are
a counter.
A couple slow Bailings.
Yeah, they bust open that bunker. Oh, the Zerglings are getting in position to catch them on the way out, trying to run away, but there's some few Marines and Marauder here trying to help with this, and at the same time, HeRoMaRinE runs some of these Marines back, so it's like, okay, he manages to defend this. He actually didn't lose too many SCVs.
No, not at all. Only lost 2 workers there. That's impressive on its own. He's going to rebuild the bunker immediately. Of course, Jaedong is doing this to buy time for himself, but just look at the army supply. Normally, you know, if you remove the name tags again, you say Terran is in an incredibly good position right now.
Yes, I completely agree. And
He does have
HeRoMaRinE,
to do something about the creep though, sorry.
yeah, the creep will be a big issue, but if you're HeRoMaRinE, your focus in this stage of the game in Terran versus Zerg is that 4th base. If you can deny or get a cancel on the 4th with either a drop or you know, an 8 Marine run by, that is the dream scenario. So this drop wants to move in, get the 4th while the main army distracts and cleans up creep.
I like the idea. It will all come down to execution, of course, but this army is good enough and it's big enough for Jaedong to be scared of it. He can't just run in. He has a bunch of Banings. Jaedong is just going to go counterattack again. HeRoMaRinE, you got to step it up, man. You got to make those plays. You got to cancel that base and then make sure that you're ready to defend this counter from Hero. That mine!
Whoa! A lot of Zerglings do get cleaned up. Most of the Banes are still intact. Jaedong's not yet ready to move in on this as his 4th base is under fire. At the same time, the rest of that army is coming back home to defend against the Mutalisk play. Killing this hatchery is tantamount to HeRoMaRinE's chances at taking this map too.
There are more mines as well. That one mine killed 23 Lings, by the way, with a single shot. That's juicy.
That's the Terran dream right there. Lifts up, backs out. Phenomenal trade for HeRoMaRinE. Well, I don't even know if I should say trade. He didn't lose anything. But you kill that 4th. And now, as HeRoMaRinE, if you kill the Zerg's 4th, immediately you're thinking to yourself, I don't actually have to take a 4th base. I max out, and I wait for them to try to take the 4th again, and then I try to push it once more. There's no pressure for HeRoMaRinE to do anything other than what he's currently doing right now.
That is maxing out and getting better upgrades, because you know there's almost no way that Jaedong is going to be maxed out anytime soon. He could drop a few Marines on top of these Banelings, but the only thing that HeRoMaRinE has to be very scared of is that creep. He's been trying to do a good job to deny it, but I must say compliments to Jaedong in that regard. He's been very good on when it comes to renewing those tumors over and over again.
Yes.
You snipe him, fine, you know, creep is right there immediately, replaces them and spreads the creep out even further. It's not that HeRoMaRinE hasn't tried, Jaedong has just done a very good job in actually spreading the creep.
Yeah, and those Mutalisks come over, they see this drop, actually cleans up a few of the Mutas. These forward Marines will get swallowed up as he continues to push on the right side. The creep is, as you mentioned, still being respread, but HeRoMaRinE right back at you, knocking down those tumors.
Yep, that's of course an interesting dance always when it comes to Terran versus Zerg. This time just a few Lings will be sent in, trying to trigger those mines to go off. It feels like HeRoMaRinE has units all over the place, and Jaedong's army looks way bigger than HeRoMaRinE's army, which shouldn't be the case, because technically speaking, HeRoMaRinE is up in army supply.
Yeah, he does have a very formidable force, but at some point or another he'll have to take a big fight, and if he does that on creep, he really opens the door for Jaedong. There's a ton of Banelings with this army, not a lot of Mutas, so chasing the Medivacs will be tricky, and that could also work in HeRoMaRinE's advantage.
Yep, Banelings being sent in one by one, trying to connect with Marines. This army just doesn't look big from HeRoMaRinE. I don't know why, but I'm just not that impressed with it.
And there's a lot of the supply in Medivacs in those mines. It's kind of deceptive.
I mean, this can't possibly be everything.
Nah,
he's rallying a lot of units across the map. He has Tors and Widow Mines and stuff. He has a lot in production as well. Jaedong is just going to go for it.
Yeah.
I think he's going to crush it, Nate.
Yeah, he does step up. He manages to clean up a lot of this. I'm actually curious where that Thor was that you mentioned. I remember he had it built
on
earlier.
the way.
It was just chilling at the factory, actually. He had one just kind of loafing around.
Oh, it can't fit through. It doesn't fit through the bunker.
Oh, no.
He's going to lower the other depot. That's the first time this Thor can actually fit through.
I was wondering, I was like, that Thor's built a while ago. Did he forget about it? Is he the lonely Thor?
It's a dancing Thor, Nate.
It's like, no one loves me because I can't fit through the door.
This is like one of these movies, you know, where the superhero is injured and he hears about his friends fighting the villains. He's like, oh, I really want to come help you guys, just can't yet. And then eventually the gates open up and he's here to save the day.
Yeah, well now it's like, you built 2 Thors that fast?
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, that was my plan all along.
This is the Pacific Rim tornado.
And see if they can work together to knock down these Mutalisks, because there's going to be a lot of them trying to crash over that wall, hitting the missile turrets in the main base. Some SCVs exposed. The 3-3 upgrades, very important. Even getting the contamination. If he doesn't kill the engineering base, he will still delay these upgrades a long time. +3 armor denied, +3 attack. Say goodbye.
He's going to get both of them, and that is an incredibly big pickoff, because we all know how big 3-3 is in this matchup. That's often the difference. If Terran, he should have done that before, you know, pick up a couple of those Tors. That would have helped out quite a bit, especially because the Muda Clump, you know, was real, and those Tors could have done some serious splash damage. What a great snipe there by Jaedong. If he wasn't bringing himself back in this game yet, he definitely is right now.
That play alone is enough to, if you're Jaedong, you deny the 3-3. That is just sweat right off the brow there. He can actually take reasonable trades again, because, in those later games, Steve, when you have so many of these units, that extra 1 damage, I guess you could say 2 damage, realistically, going back and forth with the armor as well. It's so important for cleaning up those Marines, because it's so hard to get Hive when you play Zerg.
Yep. Especially with the start that Jaedong had. If Jaedong would have been able to go up to 4 bases again, uncontested, it would have been a different ballgame. But Jaedong had a rough start in this game. It would have been hard for him to reach high.
I love this so much. You pull the Marines back, let the Marauders and Thors take the front, but the Mutas once again coming in. Oh,
this is going to be the E-base again, man.
You started 3-3 again. Good luck, have fun with that one.
And these Banelings are getting way better connections, I think, than they ever should have. There we go again. Double deny on those engineering base. Perhaps a little bit stubborn to build it in the exact same location, but Jaedong doing some serious work with these 25 Mutalisks.
It spends all of its energy right before it falls, so, Marine Lord makes the best of that terrible, terrible position. And at the same time, excuse me, HeRoMaRinE, as he pushes now down towards that base, and, well, even those Marauders took pretty good Baneling hits.
It just feels that this army is small again. We're looking at like 10 Marines and then Tors and Widow Mines. That's about it. Careful with the friendly fire. We've seen this before in WCS. Whew, so far so good. He's dodging his own bullets, Nate, but now these Mutalisks will just come home again. There's barely any anti-air in this anymore. I think Mutas can take care of this army easily.
Yeah,
these medevacs.
And they will, grabbing everything here.
God.
1 medevac leading the front with that Thor is like, get out of here.
And
some precious cargo.
This is why it's so important that Jaedong had non-stop creep spread on the left side of the map, because he forces HeRoMaRinE to push towards the middle, and it just takes so much longer, and it's so hard for HeRoMaRinE to get his reinforcements in the right place at the right time.
Yep, beautifully executed by Jaedong to swing the momentum of this game back into his favor. And even though HeRoMaRinE is a 4-base Terran versus a 4-base Zerg, Jaedong has that 5th hatch ready. He can move drones over whenever he needs to, and now he has the supply lead.
But I mean, 4-base, like he might not, or he lost his main base. He's completely mined out in the natural. He has 44 SCVs at his 4th base. So it's not like HeRoMaRinE is extremely rich or anything. He's just like oversaturated. Ends up losing 1 more Tor there, and we can see it, the mineral bank is almost non-existent. Phenomenal macro, by the way, this game by Jaedong. And overall, his mechanics, Nate, look very solid. The creep spread, again, it's been denied actively throughout the entire game. Jaedong has always been on top of it to renew it immediately.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest keys to success in Zerg versus Terran. It just makes those Zerglings so much more effective. You mentioned that bank. He gets +3 vehicle weapons before he has his infantry upgrades, because those engineering bays.
He gave up.
He's like, I don't want 3-3.
No,
forget about it.
He's like, I know I'm going to lose it. It's a big investment. It's just money that I can't use for a while, and eventually I'll get back without any interest. I don't want it anymore, Jaedong. Jaedong's going to pick off the factory, going to pick off the starport. So that, well, he's not going to get.
Well, even if he doesn't kill the starport, it's still useless for a good bit of time. And HeRoMaRinE once again wants to knock down this 4th base. He hasn't even sent units over to where that 5th is. He's trying to bait out the friendly fire. Actually, pretty good counter micro with the Widow Mines. Got to give him credit on that. But there's just so many Banelings.
I mean, if HeRoMaRinE is ever going to win this game, I kind of feel it has to happen right here and right now. He's even in army supply, or he's even a little bit ahead, 122. Maybe he can get one. Oh, great shots there. Bye-bye, like 12, 14 Banelings. That's not the end of the world yet. There are more mines, though, so maybe these Banelings will get blown up as well.
Not quite in range yet, but the splits were good enough, too. There's still a lot more Zerg for HeRoMaRinE. to work through if he wants to take this game, as the Mutas have knocked down that starport.
Yeah, they pretty much knocked down everything in the main base, so it's do or die, now or never for HeRoMaRinE, as he's trying to just do as well as he possibly can. He doesn't have a whole lot of Marauders left anymore to soak up these Banelings, so the splits are gonna have to be out of this world. This is almost a moment, Nate, where I'd say F2 and go for it. Just grab every single unit you have on the map, because you need to do something about this base. If he snipes his base, Jaedong's economy is completely down the drain as well. It's non-existent at that point.
I love using this high ground position to retreat to, but without that minefield, he's lost the backbone of his defense. He cannot retreat into mines anymore.
Look at the minimap. The reinforcements are arriving, but Jaedong doesn't want to wait for it. Jaedong just wants to fight this Marine army, and it's pretty big, but it's not big enough to fight against all these Zerg units that are streaming in.
Yeah, the reinforcement's not there. Just a little bit too late, and we can see a lot of these Marines are injured from stimming to try and get to this position even faster. That hurts him. He stims again. These Marines, such little hit points as the Zerglings and Banelings chase forward, one-shotting these Marines.
And all the medevacs have died, the starport has died, the factory has died, and I think the last units of HeRoMaRinE are almost going to die over here as well. Yeah, these mutas are just too strong, man. They've got reasonable upgrades, and GG is called. Jaedong showed some very good stuff there in game number 2.
Bringing it back.
Yeah, he played from a difficult position.
He was so far down. At one point, it was like something like 180 supply for HeRoMaRinE to 130 for Jaedong, and that's the mark of a very good player.
Yep, did a really good job being on top of his mechanics, the creep spread, the macro, and HeRoMaRinE probably looks back at this game being like, kind of feel like I should have won that game. You know, things were really going my way. Of course, HeRoMaRinE had a lot of good plays as well. Early game with the Marines against those slow links. Really loved what I saw there, but in the end, Jaedong proved to be a little too good. And he will move on to the winners match, where Showtime is waiting for him. That's going to be a great one.
Yeah, I mean, Jaedong showing once again, you know, he is, in fact, a force to be reckoned with here in the WCS system.
Why are you quoting my soundboard right now, Nate?
Especially after a 9 pull like that, Roddy. I have no idea what you're talking about. But it was a challenge. Like, that's like one of those games where you're like, am I still really good at this game? Let me 9 pull a command center first, do no damage, and then win anyway after 20 minutes. Yeah, I'm still pretty good at this game.
Yeah, like I said, if you would have removed the name tags, I think at a certain point in this game, almost everyone watching would be like, oh, Terran is going to steamroll this Zerg. Like, what are you going to do, Zerg? You have no bailing speed, your mutas are very late, Terran is 3 bases, you've done 0 economic damage. This is a very difficult position to play from, but Jaedong didn't sweat it.
No, not at all. And curious to hear what the boys at the analyst desk have to say about this. What's going on, Chobra, Huck, and In Control?
Well, what's going on is I can see that In Control has a very nice grin on his face. Of course, happy to see his boy Jaedong win his first match in Group C. Let's focus on the positive very first. I mean, Jaedong, like they were mentioning in Game 2, it looks like it could be a little shaky here. HeRoMaRinE could try to push for a win, even if it's the long run. But Jaedong says, hey, I've been playing this game for this long. There's a reason why.
You know, with how much travel Jaedong does, it's sometimes, you know, he becomes a little bit like a box of chocolates. Sometimes you reach in, you get that one that you think has like peanut butter in it and more chocolate, and you're like, this is going to be great. Instead, it has raspberry jam and like some kind of truffle that's just terrible. But this time at this WCS, he's got the peanut butter. He's got the peanut butter. He's got a little bit of strawberry maybe. He's delicious. He's good. His mechanics are on point. I like that Rodden pointed that out. In game number, we're looking at game number 2 here, where actually tries a strategy that, let's be honest, HeRoMaRinE puts down hard. The Zerglings get in here. This could be a disaster point with only 2 Marines, but minimal pull on the SCVs. There's a couple over here, but again, to kill 8 to 10 Zerglings, not a big deal. Loses neither of the Marines and continues on with his Hellion opening. So it was looking really bad for Jaedong. He was even down 20 supply. Huck and I were talking about this just a couple of minutes ago. It looked like, okay, we're going to game 3. Like, you know, Jaedong tried his typical gamble stuff and it didn't really work. But then just through raw mechanics and good ZVT, trapping the Hellions right here between the Queens and the Zerglings. He did this in both the games, getting that map control, and then really just doing a great job of being able to be offensive with Mutalisk, but also fairly well defended with Ling Baneling as well.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it looked like Jaedong, he knew where he was. He knew how to put, you know, he knew what he had to do, right? It wasn't just like, oh, well, 1 point was really good, but some of his macro was a little shaky. No, like, he had all his bases covered, and he knew how to control the entire pace of the game.
And we were talking about earlier about how he was that Brood War player that was really aggressive and did these like really cool traps, and we saw that in this play here. He was a little bit behind. He's not like a super strong build order or strategical player. He was behind there, and at the same time, he had those small little gambits, those nice special maneuvers that he pulled off, and he got sizable leads from it. Even despite, as you can see here, he's down 40 supply at some point.
Yeah.
TVZ on Cactus Valley. That's a rough spot for Anizer.
And Nathaniel had to catch himself. He was like, oh, good trade over here for HeRoMaRinE. Not a trade. The fourth died to a single dropship, and Jaedong was not able to get any damage done at the third. So there's like little moments like that where we're like, okay, he's just outgunned. You know, like he's maneuvering well. His creep spread's great. Mechanics-wise, very good. But then you look at a game like this. Watch the Widow Mines. Is it this one? I can't remember. I think it's actually... It might be the fight after, but they obliterate the Terran player. That'll happen with Widow Mines. Like, every Terran player knows. I think it's actually right here. All the shots go back into the Terran player. Boom, boom, boom. He's like, wait, no, guys, stop. We're on your team. What are you doing? And then the fight was routed.
Yeah, I mean, there were some heartbreaking moments, of course. But at the same time, let's talk briefly about HeRoMaRinE. Of course, not out yet from Group C. What did we see from him? Because, again, like you mentioned, Jeff, in the beginning of this game, it looked like HeRoMaRinE just completely shut down Jaedong and was ready to take the game to Game 3.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I don't want to be too hard on these guys because I've been in their shoes before where everyone's like, oh gosh, if you're the worst player, you should take bigger risks. You know, HeRoMaRinE didn't take any risks. In fact, he took a CC on the high ground, and that was one of the things that put him so far ahead in this game. So I don't think he's a big risk player, and I don't think even though he lost 0-2 here, he needs to go, well, gosh, I'm way worse than these guys. I got to go crazy. He's going to play Sen, who, if the first series was any indicator, Sen is doing good, especially macro-wise. He was extremely greedy in that matchup. Who knows about his ZvT, but he's probably a little bit of a lower degree than Jaedong, and HeRoMaRinE was in these games. So HeRoMaRinE should go into it worried because he's got his back up against the wall, but knowing that he deserves to be with these guys. It's not quite like it was yesterday where, we're going to be honest, like Hydra was so much better than that whole group. Like, we as casters would be like, gosh, I don't know, guys. It could really... Nah, Hydra's destined for great things. And that group is not going to slow him down.
Yeah, of course, as we see here. So Jaedong and Showtime will await their winners match. They're sitting pretty comfortably so far in Group C. And Jaedong, of course, as most people expected, hoping to go for that first seed. But Showtime's in his way for now. But next one coming up, HeRoMaRinE versus Sen. Chris, what are your thoughts after having seen HeRoMaRinE? I mean, he had some good plays there against Jaedong.
I think he's going to feel a lot more comfortable going up against Sen, and that's going to speak volumes going into that matchup. I feel like overall, he's a fairly confident player. Going up against Jaedong, that's probably the toughest opponent in this whole group. You know, you're kind of a little shaky. I mean, for the first time in forever, I actually looked at his composition and thought, might be too many Widow Mines. You know, they're a very good unit.
No, you can never.
Yeah, exactly. But it seemed like he had a little too many Widow Mines. All in all, he had great play. And, you know, he came from beating a good player in Rhett 3-1 in the Challenger match. So I feel like his TVZ's on point. He's going to be a lot more confident going in this next match.
Yeah, it should be really interesting to see now. Both of these players, they've played through one match. They both shouldn't feel too bad about their match, but at the same time, like you said, in control, pushed up against the wall. It's time to find out after this break who will be the first eliminated and who will have one more chance for a shot at the round of 16.